history shows a majority of the playoff teams are likely set. Take a look at last year's standings 4 weeks in. 13 of the 16 teams in playoff positioning ended up, in fact, making the postseason. In fact, 9 of the last 10 seasons, either 6 or 7 teams from each conference that were in the playoffs at the 4-week mark stayed in the top 8. So as we start with the East standings today, where the last 2 East champs, the Heat and the Raptors, are within a game of the Knicks, Cavs, and Hawks. Richard, who is the one team most at risk in the East of falling out of the playoffs? Because I know it's early, but history shows only one of these teams is likely to fall out.
Oh, that's tough. I'm going to have to say, ooh, God, it's going to hurt, but the Cavs. The Cavs and the Hawks are the 2 teams. I think.
You think both of them are not going to?
I don't think both of them. Both of them won't make it.
Wow.
I just look. That's tough because the Heat. How are we going to say the Heat aren't going to make it?
Well, that's what. So
they got so much talent.
The point is that if you put the Heat or Raptors, traditional powerhouses of the past few years, in,
and the reason why I'll say this is because of this. When you look at last year's team, the Suns started off super, super hot, and then they slowly trickled down.
Yes.
Timberwolves started off super, super hot, and then trickled down. So even though that month chart had them in there, where they were 2 weeks before was even higher,
right.
And they just kept going down. So that's why it's like I look at those teams, and those teams started off well, and now they're slowly trickling down.
So you would say both the
Cavs, yeah. I'm sorry, Cavs fans. I love you guys to death, but I think it's going to be
about
tough.
the Hawks. What about you?
I'm going with the Cleveland Cavaliers also. I just think,
So you both think the Knicks are staying in?
I think Coach Thibodeau is going to do wonders for that ball club. He's changed the culture. They're playing defense now.
Yeah.
And so I believe that the Knicks will make it. But Atlanta and Cleveland, they're 2 of the worst defensive teams in the league, and that's not a recipe for making the playoffs. Yeah. And I think Miami Heat, who will be one of the better defensive teams, are going to get in.
Well, and again, look at the Cavs, even the makeup of their team. Like, I love their young talent, love their backcourt. Yeah. You know, they got Jared Allen, they got Drummond, they got JaVale McGee. So it's like, even then, they kind of have a little bit less of a traditional team, and you're going to depend on a very young backcourt, not having Porter Jr., playing for, personal reasons and dealing with stuff. If he was playing and giving them their 15, 16 a night, then you're like, okay, you got guards, you got wings, you got veteran bigs, but it's just not quite clicking in. To say those young players are going to lead them through this stretch is going to be tough. Next year, I think the Cavs make the postseason.
All right, I want to move over to the West. A half a game separates teams 4 through 8, and 2 of last season's playoff teams, the Nuggets and the Mavericks, are currently a game out of 8. So, Paul, which team in the West is currently most at risk to miss the playoffs?
Memphis will not make it this year. And you know who else I think is going to fall out? I think the Portland Trail Blazers.
Ooh.
Oh.
And that has,
wow.
because they're dealing with injuries.
You're betting against Dame Lillard.
Well, it's not Dame Lillard. It's his squad. I mean, he's losing Nurkic. He's lost C.J. McCollum. These guys are going to be going by from 4 to 6 weeks, and 72 games, and then not to mention they're going to go at some point go through some protocol issues where they're missing players, and so I can see them easily falling out in Denver and possibly.
Are we doing a play-in again? They're doing a play-in.
So they are doing. I will say this, and that's where the Blazers may be able to do exactly what they did last year, which was make a push right there at the end. If they are whole health-wise toward the end of the season. Again, the teams that are in the 9 and 10 spot will have a chance to at least be in the mix for a playing.
Look, can we talk about the Nuggets, though, for a second?
Yes.
Jokic is having an MVP season, right? He is first team All-NBA.
MVP consideration season.
MVP consideration. Thanks, Rach. I'm just kidding. He's having that type of season, and they are.
Is he your MVP right now?
Well, okay, look, to your point, yeah, like you said. But, the fact that they are where they are at, I understand that you want to push, but, guys, they had gone further and further and further every single year, got better every single year, and now you're not even in the postseason a month in. There's some things there that need to be addressed and need to be changed and need to be tweaked because you shouldn't be here at this point in time, not with that roster, right? If you were hovering at the 6-7 or if you were hovering at the 4-5, but to go conference finals to out the postseason or out of the postseason currently with a month in, something ain't right.
Well, you know that team. You played on that team where you sat and watched other people
lot of watching
on that team. And this was a team we expected to have at least a degree of continuity. I know the Jeremy Grant situation, but They have young stars they've been developing. What do you think is happening?
They're not that young anymore. Well, I'm just saying, when you're in your second contract and you're a year and two into your contract and you have all NBA guys, first teamers like Jokic, who I still think is the best big in the league. He's better. I think he's better than Embiid.
Okay.
And so when you have all of that, there's no excuse for that. Their defense isn't great. I think you have young players trying to make jumps still. I think Jamal Murray, I think Porter's trying to make jumps. And so, there's a lot of, bowl, like ones, there's just a lot of stuff going on, but they should not be where they are right now.
I really think Kevin not having Porter Jr. is really hurting this team. He
Michael Porter Jr.
Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah.
He gives them athleticism and size, a stretch four. The guy who's slowly turning into a star in this league that we saw in the playoffs, and I really think it's hurt them early.
Yeah.
All right, guys, before we go to break, I want to recognize reigning WNBA MVP A'ja Wilson. She was honored by her alma mater, South Carolina,
awesome.
Monday with a statue on campus. She was a 3-time first-team All-American during her 4 years in Columbia. And during the ceremony, Wilson noted the progress from when her grandmother lived just outside the university.